And now I'm embracing them. I'm going to places that I never thought I would have been in, because I'm embracing the people who are allowing me to be able to lead and speak for them and create opportunities for them.
Yeah,
And who
the
are
life of a community transplant is definitely one that I'm growing more familiar with.
just being relative, relating yourself to what the others are going through, being right there with them along the way, knowing.
So greetings and salutations, everybody. My name is Ernest Comer III, and this is the Pancakes from Scratch podcast. I love to talk to good people doing good things. Today is no exception to the rule. I got my good brother with me, the Mr. Vachel Hudson. What's going on with you, brother?
What's going on, Mr. Ernest? Not much. I'm happy to be here and happy to be talking to you, having this discussion.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, I'm glad we got a chance to put the time together and connect and chop it up for a little bit. But before we dig in, I always like to start with what's giving you energy this week?
Man, just the opportunity to go out here and just be able to help change someone else's life. Every day I'll get fulfilled by just the ability to be able to empower and help serve others. So that's what gives me energy day in and day out.
That's it, man. I love it. Okay. Fueled by the work. That's how it's supposed to be, man. It's good. It's never really work when you love what you're doing. They say time flies when you're having fun. Is that the type of experience you would say you're having?
Man, I would definitely say that's been the type of experience I've been having for the most part. The fun has fortunately overweighed, those things that kind of weigh me down. So, yeah, as long as I'm having fun, you're going to continue to see the smile on my face when you see me out in the community.
I love it. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Well, what I do know is that, the work that we do in terms of social impact, having a commitment to making a change in community doesn't come without its challenges. And, even the inspiration to do that work doesn't come without facing some things in your personal life or, at least professionally. So I'm wondering, for you, are there challenges that you see you've had to come through in life that really help to shape who you are or help to prepare you for the work that you do now?
Absolutely. That's a great question. Thank you for that question. A few challenges that come up to me right away have been one of the first one I'll point out is really just staying the course. When you know where you come from, where you've been, and where you're trying to go and get to, a lot of times we get distracted. We get pulled back down from, it may be our roots, it may be our neighborhood, it may be our friends, whatever the case may be. It's really just how do I make sure that I'm staying the course, especially when I'm trying to rebrand myself. I'm trying to, improve myself professionally and personally. How do I make sure that those things that also bring me comfort and joy also aren't taking me off of that route and that journey that I'm trying to go through? So really just continuing to be, they say the 2% go this way, the 98% of people go the other way. Really just trying to stay in that 2% and not be distracted by what's going on with the other 98% that's happening over there. And really just staying my course has been one of my biggest challenges, especially just being in new places and new communities where I may not have, the roots that I have, like where I grew up or where I might have been raised. So being able to, tap into those different groups and networks and circles of people that can continue to help me, shape who I am and shape who I'm trying to be and become has been one of the biggest challenges, especially when you are in those new communities, trying to break into those new circles of people and influencers. Another challenge I would say has been similar to number one is really breaking into a few different networks and circles of people who may have already formed those groups of mentors, mentees, prodigies, a group of friends that they hold each other accountable. For me, being a new addition, even though it's been almost 6 years in Minnesota, being a new addition has been a challenge But fortunately, I've been able to get connected with the right organizations and with the right people who've been able to introduce me to even more people, which has allowed me to kind of get away from what that being a challenge. And as I continue to put myself out there, go to networking events and whatnot, it becomes less of a challenge when it comes to trying to build those relationships. But my first couple of years, that has been a challenge in a new community because you're trying to build relationships, you're trying to let people know who you are, but everybody's busy. Other people may have already had the people that they're invested in as well. So you kind of got to get what's left, and you kind of got to, put your own foot on the pedal and try to make things happen so that you can continue to break into those different groups and circles and networks.
That's it, man. Yeah. The life of a community transplant is definitely one that I'm growing more familiar with. I made that move from Minnesota down here to Georgia, and the transition was certainly not an easy one, but necessary for the family. And to your point, man, just connecting with the right people, getting plugged into the right networks, organizations, has its own challenges, right? Because folks, like you said, they've already formed, they got their people, right? Just like I had my people living in Minnesota, you know what I'm saying? My community, my village was built over a number of years. And so to come here and really feel like I gotta kind of start anew, it's trippy, man. It's a very challenging experience, but one that I think has a huge impact on like who we are and how we move into the future. So, man, shout out to you for pushing through it, man. That's big.
To your point, it has a huge effect on our ability, our confidence, and our ability to be able to navigate in these new cities. We see a lot of transplants don't stay past 1 or 2 years in Minneapolis. At least that's the feedback that we've been getting from a lot of people who have recently left. One of the reasons why is because they just can't tap into that community, whether it's the Black community, whether it's a certain type of culture they're trying to tap into and find it, but it's been a challenge. But thankfully, I was pointed in the right directions by a few people that I met early on.
Now, where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky.
Got you. Okay. I love it, man. I got a little bit of family out there, a little bit of family. My dad's side is from Indiana, South Bend. And so I got a couple cousins that moved out to Kentucky. We sort of spread out. As folks ventured out from South Bend, everybody spread out to their own little corners of the world.
Wow. I got family in Bartholomew County, which is not too far from South Bend. It's in Columbus, Indiana, so Southern Indiana as well. That's actually where my mom grew up. Where she has some family members, some immediate family. A lot of families here remember her because she used to babysit their children. So definitely. And then we ventured off to Louisville as well after I was born in Columbus, Indiana, which is where my dad and his family live.
Got you. Okay, good stuff, man. Good stuff. So you a true Midwesterner.
Unfortunately, I got the Southern in me too. Louisville's a Southern city. So just want to remind everybody that Louisville is the most northern city that you can find, but you can tell by my accent, we are a Southern city.
It's a fact. It's a fact, man. Like I remember what's funny is like my accent has shifted throughout my life, right? From South Bend to Minnesota, why you talk so country? And then from Minnesota to Georgia, they like,
yeah, that dialect switches up.
Yeah, man. But it's like your environment, it has an impact. For me anyway, I don't know. It's one of those things, man. That's cool. It's helpful. It's good context to, get an understanding of where folks come from. It speaks to like how you grow up and the person that you become. I'm wondering about, when you think through the experiences you've had on the personal side, on the professional side, is there an experience that sticks out to you that's something that, you're just really grateful for in terms of like just having the opportunity to do this or achieve this thing? What sticks out for you?
Yeah, that would be two. I want to point out two things that I'm really grateful for, two experiences. One was when I was still a young man. I wasn't fully developed in the brain. I was 24, 25 years old, right out of college. I had a few odd jobs right after college. I played sports, so I didn't really care too much for the internships. But when I got back home, I realized that, my neighborhood that I grew up in was just so ran down, so disinvested in. And it hurt my heart. It's the same place I used to get the chili cheese dogs at the church, same corner, the same community that my church is in. It's the same community that me and my sister were renting in at the time. So I ended up joining the neighborhood organization that had a community outreach job. And my job was to analyze that entire neighborhood, knock on doors, go to the parks, go to the businesses, get surveys done, get feedback, take pictures of vacant lots, vacant homes, the street lights, the sidewalks, entire neighborhood. Me and a few other outreach workers analyzed the entire neighborhood, and we engaged with community members in that neighborhood to ask them what it is that they were missing, what kind of gaps and barriers they facing, what do they want to see, come to the neighborhood, and how can they prevent themselves from getting displaced because gentrification was coming. So that project, long story short, was a project that was a federally funded project, and we were really competing with about 36 other cities in Louisville. And only 4 cities were awarded a $30+ million HUD, which is a Housing and Urban Development Project grant. And this grant allowed that neighborhood that I spoke about. I lived in it, I worshiped in it, I grew up in it, I worked in it. That neighborhood was able to get $30+ million to help just start the planning phases of the redevelopment of that neighborhood, and taking into account all the data, the surveys, the information that we collected from the community. I got to work alongside and advocate alongside folk like Lonnie Ali, which is Muhammad Ali's wife, and other folk who are prominent leaders in the city of Louisville, working alongside the mayor, the governor, taking pictures with folk from the National HUD office. I was only 24, 25 years old, so this is before I even knew Nipsey Hussle was investing in his community in a way that was similar to that. So I'm very thankful to just be able to get that type of experience, which is actually what led me to be able to meet someone who was working in Minneapolis, and they recruited me out to Minneapolis. And that goes to lead me to tell you my next experience that I'm very grateful for is really all the leadership, professional development opportunities. And one that I would like to point out would have to be the National Urban League and the National Urban League Young Professionals Organization. From the moment that I moved from Louisville, Kentucky to Minneapolis, Minnesota, I realized that Minneapolis is the type of city where a voice like mine would be valuable, would be asset to what's already happening, compared to a city like Louisville. Just wasn't as progressive. There's a lot of just pushback, and people weren't as energetic when it came to some of the social justice and racial justice issues that they were dealing with. So one thing that happened with me, it took a year to really get plugged into the Black community when I moved to Minneapolis. It took a year. Mind you, I lived in Chaska for the first 6 months, which was part of the reason why it took so long. But the moment I plugged in with the Minneapolis Urban League Young Professionals, at the time was Minneapolis Urban League, I was able to then immediately meet other folk from NAACP. I was able to meet Anika Leslie, other Black leaders in the community, not just from NAACP, but from other organizations as well. And from there, I was able to expand my network even more on a national level. Hundreds and thousands of other young professionals who are doing similar work as us in their local communities, fighting some of the same challenges. But being able to not just join that chapter as a member, but to be able to nominate myself and win the confidence of peers as I'm new to this community, to be able to lead a chapter of young people ages 18 to 40 years old to help uplift and advocate for some of the challenges and issues that we might face, as well as create a platform and space for us to be able to use our voices and develop ourselves personally and professionally, was something that I didn't know that I would be able to do. However, because that organization is one of those organizations where they will take you as you are and help build you up and give you the infrastructure, give you the talking language, the talking points, they'll give you the toolkits that you need. However, you get in what you put out. And that was something that I really put a lot of effort into. And in return of that, I find myself just really being able to be a lot more confident when it comes to being able to lead groups of people when it comes to be able to lead and partner with other organizations, corporations, when it comes to be able to do a lot of the impactful work I've been able to do, it's because of the experience I've been able to have through the Urban League Twin Cities, through the National Urban League Young Professionals, being able to pick brains of other leaders from other cities, being able to take the meat off of what they do and leave the bones when it comes to things that they've been very successful at, some of the best practices. Having a vast network like that and other organizations such as the Josie R. Johnson Leadership Academy through the African American Leadership Forum, those are all the programs that continue to keep me on that right path. And as I said earlier, from being distracted, these are the types of programs and organizations and developmental opportunities that I continuously try to look for. And I'm very grateful for each and every last one of them because they play a role in my overall personal and professional development and journey.
Man, you've been through it, man. What? Hang on. Okay, so first of all, I gotta address this. You said back when you was 25. Now you look like you might be a good 22. Okay, we just gonna keep it 100. We gonna keep it a buck. Okay.
It's a good thing you can't see them.
I don't know, bro. You done found the fountain of youth. But that's what's so. What the thing is, like, even at that age, 25, being plugged into some work that, like, what you're talking about, engaging on that level, even on the community side of things. We're not even talking about like federal politicals. You know what I'm saying? We're not getting that even heavy. How did you get tapped into the stuff you were doing in Louisville? How did you get tapped into the Urban League? Like, what are you doing that gets you access to these things?
Yeah, in Louisville, you know, they say it's not what you know, but who you know, right? At the time, my first gig out of college was life insurance. So I was already helping people empower themselves through financial literacy. However, that was a tough job and I needed something that would pay me every other week, right? So I started doing off jobs, janitor roles. I started doing things that I didn't go to college for, right? I got a college degree and I'm, you know, cleaning toilets for a church. But you know, my godmom that also was a treasurer at the church, who also was my dad's realtor when he bought his house, reached out to me with the opportunity in the neighborhood, and I just fit the bill. You know, I was like the golden nugget, you know, the token, right? I lived there, I worked there, I worshiped there in that neighborhood. It was the 3 check marks they were looking for. So I just fit the bill, and because I was educated, because I was outgoing, I'm articulate, that she thought I was someone that could help with this project, and she was also into real estate, of course, so she realized that this is something that can help, you know, kind of kickstart a career for me. So it's who you know, not always what you know. And then when it came down to the Urban League, for me, it was a mentor. The guy who actually recruited me to come to Minneapolis, he had sat down with me. He was my mentor for a number of months before we had broke it off because we just grew out of that relationship. But he told me to get connected with the right organizations so that I can build my own community and so I can learn about some of the challenges and issues that the community is facing. Because as a new person to a community who knows he wants to use his voice to help, you know, create change and improve the neighborhoods and community overall, I can't just be out here trying to find out solutions on my own without knowing and understanding what the people are going through. So just listening to him and knowing that I'm good with connecting with people, I'm not afraid to meet new people. So I just put myself out there and I found out about these organizations. Stephen Belton, the CEO at the time, told me about the YPs after I met with him, and I was able to get connected through the YPs, you know, through my supervisor at my first job. He knew Stephen Belton through church. So, you know, building relationships, letting people know what it is that I'm looking for, what am I seeking, and following up with whatever action items they give me. If they tell me someone to connect with, make sure I follow up, connect with them. If they're telling me to tap into a certain organization, I'm going to reach out and inquire about the certain organization because it's not what I know, it's who I know. Sometimes we only know what we know. We don't know what we do not know. And being in a new place, you have to put yourself out there to be able to tap into these resources. And a lot of people don't know about these resources because they may not ask. At the same time, there's a lot of silos when it comes to a lot of the organizations as well. So it could be a challenge finding the resources. But I tend to try to be as social as possible and try to network as much as possible. And because I know that I cannot do this work alone, I try to put myself in all the different levels, whether it's grassroots, whether it's business, whether it's even higher in the C-suite. I try to make sure that I can, navigate all those different levels, because I'm trying to speak on behalf of a community who may or may not have a voice. At the same time, I don't want to misrepresent.
You got it, man. Listen, I'm big on investing in people and relationships, because I've recognized, throughout my life and career, that oftentimes the opportunities that come to us, they come through people, right? The people that you connect with are the vessels for those opportunities. And a lot of times it's not even the person that you know, but it's a weak tie. It's somebody that you know, that they know, and they make an introduction or what have you. And so we go about our day, you know what I'm saying, minding our business and being stuck in the world that you can see, rather than tapping into the people that are around you and engaging the world that you can't see through them. You miss out on so many it could be right there. You know what I'm saying? You hear all types of things about 6 degrees of separation, and it can feel very much out of reach when you're not investing time and energy and getting to know people, and reaching out, at least just making some type of connection, having conversation, man. It's not, I think people overcomplicate it, man. People overcomplicate what it means to connect with somebody, and that word networking. A lot of people get thrown off by it, man. What's that about though? Why do you think people shy away from the idea of networking?
Right. Because maybe they tried and their experience was very negative experience. Again, maybe they're afraid, they don't have the confidence. No one's ever taught them how to put themselves out there. Maybe they're introverts. At the same time, that's what fuels me, is because I know that I can navigate these different spaces and I can know how to access resources. How do I be a resource to the broader community? How do I take what I'm learning back to the community so that they can tap into it as well? Kind of that being the change that you want to see, how I'm taking advantage of the same resources that I'm telling you about. So it's really, just being relating yourself to what the others are going through, being right there with them along the way, knowing that, I'm someone who's not quite there, but I have a journey and I know where I'm trying to go. And I just want to bring people with me. So I'm going to be, as adamant as possible when it comes to finding out where these resources are, so that I can improve my own life as well as the life of those that I care about, and even those that I may not even know.
You know what? So I'm like trying to process in real time what I believe to be a challenge for a lot of people, and I think the challenge is the way that we see the people around us, right? If you are open to the idea that the people who are closest to you can have a significant amount of value on your life, then you're more open to leaning into the relationships in a different way, right? If I believe that, everybody around me is just there to take and doesn't have anything to pour back into me, it's going to be a lot more difficult for me to reach out to them and connect and, make an effort to build a relationship. But you got to be able to see the value that the people next to you bring, because that's how you tap into the value that you are separated from. Because it's just the relationships that separate us. It's not anything outside of, what we can control that separates one person from another. There's something to be said about the character that you bring, because basically, like, the thing is, bro, you stepped into a new community, and very, very quickly were invited to engage in a level of leadership that people who lived in that community for years don't get the opportunity to engage, right? That's not by mistake. It's not by accident. It's because people recognize the character, they recognize the value that you bring to the community. But that only happens because of the way you value the people that you were able to tap into.
Exactly.
So if we can all just have a greater level of appreciation to the people sitting next to us, I think it puts everybody in a better position. You know what I mean?
Man, it's perfectly said, man. I couldn't say it any better. And that's exactly what I think my niche has been. My niche has just been, just being that servant leader, being that sympathetic, empathetic leader. And always putting the people first is something that I never waver from. And I'd like to just, shout out, those folk who have held me accountable as well, those folk who have trusted me as the leader, whether it's through, the young professionals, whether it's through the organizations. The people have trusted me. They gave me someone who they may have not have known any more than what I've given and told them, still trusting me to be able to lead and hold me accountable. Because as I told you earlier, I wasn't the same person. I've gone through this journey that has helped me shape and change my perspectives. It's taken me away from being somebody who might have looked at somebody a certain type of way differently. And now I'm embracing them. I'm going to places that I never thought I would have been in, because I'm embracing the people who are allowing me to be able to lead and speak for them and create opportunities for them, and who are following my footsteps. So that's just been something that stuck with me since a kid, man, since the athletic days, playing little league sports, getting knocked around, and you just want to encourage the person to get knocked around with you. Like, hey, it's going to be okay. You can do this. We're going to do this. But knowing we're gonna go home and cry at the end of the day because that just hurts. But we continue to do it. We stick with it because that's the type of people that we are. So I just try to stick to who I am authentically, and no matter what I do, whatever position I'm in, the community, the people will definitely have a seat at the table right there next to me.
So what are you doing now, man? I understand like you did it sounded like you tapped into realty for a little bit. You did the community organizing in Louisville, but you in the Twin Cities now. You did the YP thing. What you got going on?
Yeah. So I haven't made this public, but I guess this is a good area, a good time to make it public, a good
Yeah, we
time
got the
to.
exclusive.
Yeah. So a couple of weeks ago, as a matter of fact, a month and a week ago in April, I stepped away from my role as First Independence Bank. And that was to pursue more entrepreneurial endeavors and opportunities. I realized that, my talents and skills have just been, kind of contained. And I haven't really been able to really reach my maximum potential when it comes to, the impact I believe I could really have, and not really being able to be in the places that I want to be able to create those changes and have those impacts, because I'm obligated to be at, the office and, behind the telestation, or doing direct service work that takes away my ability to be able to, connect with broader, more mass amount of people. So I stepped away from the 9-to-5 work to pick up more entrepreneur endeavors. Right now, I'm working on a contract in the actual town that I was born in, Columbus, Indiana. It's about an hour away from Louisville, Kentucky, 45 minutes from Indianapolis. I'm hybrid to Minnesota right now while I'm working on this contract. It's with the Columbus Regional Health Hospital. I was actually born in this hospital before they changed the name. So it's like a full circle moment for me. I'm working with the Healthy Communities team on the Mental Health Matters initiative. And it's a countywide initiative to bridge the gap between the systems of service providers that provide mental health services, whether you're on the 1 to 5 spectrum, or whether you're on a 5 or serious mental illness. Is really to bridge the gap between those who provide the services and the community, making sure that they making sure they are able to access the resources, making sure they know where to go, making sure they're not getting turned away by some agency because they don't provide those necessary services, but making sure that agency knows where to point them in the right direction so that they're not just going back home and dealing with those issues and not being diagnosed. So it's really just informing the community about this initiative, bringing their voices in, like I talked about the whole time, making sure their voices are heard, connecting with all the different social, cultural groups, whether it's LGBTQs, African-American, Latino, Asian, Indian, all, it could be American Legions, the elder white men, connecting with all these different groups, making sure that we're breaking the stigma around mental health, making sure that they are well-resourced and well-trained on how to identify someone who may be going through those challenges. And then if they are, how do we make sure they're connected to the right resources? So it's a 2 to 3 year project. Right now, we're in the discovery phase. So I'm just connecting with the community here, boots on the ground. It helps that I have family here as well. It helps my mom babysit everybody's kids from church. So I just drop her name. trust and confidence automatically opens up because of the groundwork that she laid 30 plus years ago. So right now, really is just trying to be the light in a city that people that look like me have not seen a lot of that light outside of the church that they go to and whatnot. So how do I take everything that I've learned from Louisville to Minneapolis and do that here in the town, in the city where they may not have seen anybody that looks like me speak on behalf of some of the conditions that I plan to speak on. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. But for those who may be curious, I still do have my business planted in Minnesota, Reinvesting in Communities Housing, which is R.I.C.H for short, is a educational program for housing financial empowerment. And I also provide affordable housing in North Minneapolis at my duplex, which will be converted to a triplex this summer. So I'm still looking to create affordable housing opportunities, home ownership opportunities for people in the state of Minnesota through my business. At the same time, I'm trying to get these contracts that will help me be able to not have to go back to a 9-to-5 job to keep me able to take care of myself, my family, as well as open up new opportunities that may have been a little bit hard to access in Minnesota because of the abundance of folk who are trying to do a lot of the same work and the lack of the resources. So how do I take that same talent to a smaller town where there may be a little bit more abundance of resources because there's less people doing the exact same work? So really just, unilaterally moving my organization, expanding in areas that I'm being asked to serve in. And so that's what I'm up to now, 2 to 3 year initiative, but I'll be hybrid in Minnesota. So you'll see me physically and digitally in Minnesota still.
I love it, man. I love it, man. Congratulations on the contract. Giving back to the origin, the hometown, man. That's beautiful, man. So congratulations. That's major. That's major. A lot of us, we come into our own and find opportunities to grow and develop in new places, and we miss out on those opportunities to come back to where it all started and have an impact. So that's a unique experience, and I'm sure it's very much appreciated by everybody who's touched by the impact that you're having, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. It definitely is something exciting. I'm looking forward to this journey and just seeing where it takes me. I'd rather be a big fish in a small pond than a medium fish in a big pond, fighting all the sharks and whales and walruses and seals that we call the state of Minnesota. So, but I do look forward to continue to leave impact in any community that I touch and find a home in. So I definitely plan on continuing to serve the state and the communities in Minneapolis and Minnesota.
That's major. That's major. I love it, man. I love it. This is great, bro. The fact that you're able to make moves both in the Twin Cities and in Columbus, like, and the fact that you got your own the residential piece, right? Because it's not only R.I.C.H that you have you actually have physical property that folks can access. That's tremendous, bro. Like
Thank you.
Where did the mindset come from to take action on these? You've mentioned a couple mentors, but how do you figure this stuff out, man?
Yeah. For me, lived experience. So I had housing challenges myself when I was in college. I played sports. So I didn't really have time to pick up a job. So I was a little behind on rent, had to wait for those refund checks to come in, right? So lived experience, my challenges with housing and then working in housing, talking to folk who have a lot of those barriers. Those are the people that I think about and can't sleep because, their situations, and I'm trying to figure out how to be a solution. And when you're looking around for solutions and all the solutions are exhausted, all the resources are exhausted. It's like, okay, how do I be this change I want to see? Even if I start very small and just get a duplex, at least there's 2 units that I can rent out at a very affordable price and to help someone change their life. So for me, it's really how do I take the lived experiences that I've had and again, I'm still on the same journey that a lot of people are on as well. So there's nothing special about me other than I just may have the wherewithal and the means to be able to know how to find and access the resources. And that's why I think it's my duty to be able to pass those batons down. If I know about a resource, make sure someone else behind me knows about those resources too. And that's really been the special sauce for me, is really just being able to take these little experiences that I've had and connect the dots, as well as using the tactics that I might have learned from school, from being a sports athlete and things like that, that tenacity, that, not quitting, going to get it until you actually get it. Those are some of the things that have helped me just build that fire in me. And then growing up, I've seen the good side and the bad side of my families. I know where I can end up being if I fall through the cracks. And I know where I could go if I continue to make the right choices and make the right decisions. And those are some of the things that continue to stick with me, no matter what it is I'm doing, no matter if I'm leading an organization or if I'm just making a decision just in everyday life about what I'm trying to eat for lunch. Really just making the right choices and right decisions, and then just making sure I'm being that role model and that example for other people to follow. I realized that, I did the DISC assessment. The folks don't know what that is. R.I.C.H assessment lets you know like different behavioral tactics that people take and how those may influence the way people may lead others and lead teams. And for me, it said that I was an influencer. So I know that I can bring inspiration to people. So I'm trying to inspire my own life, right? But I need the inspiration from others like yourself, Ernest, who has this great resume. You're also a transplant in Georgia as well, doing great things. And you've been able to take this entrepreneurship thing full speed as well. So I need people like you and others who are doing these things that I aspire to be able to do, so I could be inspired. And then I take that inspiration, put it into action. And now I'm trying to inspire those folks who may be looking up to me. And that's kind of been something that has really been able to help me, whether it's just finding simple resources or whether it's being able to just take a leap of faith and relocate to a different region and different community and be okay with it and not suffer from FOMO and those other distractions that I could be suffering from as well.
That's it. I love it, man. It's good stuff, bro. It's incredible. So when I think about the reason I started to really develop this whole platform, this podcast thing, it came from this idea of just creating space for folks to share the experiences that they've been through, some of the challenges that we face. So that people get access to insight and wisdom around overcoming these challenges to create impact, to build something incredible and really make a difference in the world. A lot of time we get in these situations and experience trauma that makes us feel stuck, makes us feel like we don't have what it takes to be able to do something incredibly powerful. And the reality is we all go through our right? And so I'm trying to just call attention to some folks who can help shed light on what those stories look like. And my hope is that people can just see themselves reflected in the stories that get told. So I appreciate you being willing to, jump in here and just shed some light on, some of the things that you've experienced and how they've shaped you and how you've overcome some of the things that you've come through, man. But another piece of it is exploring what's at the intersection of food, culture, and ambition, right? So that's why it's pancakes from scratch. And aside from the analogy of, it takes a couple broken eggs to make an omelet or to create pancakes, is this idea that when it comes to people coming together, right?
Yeah.
People coming together is always better with foods involved. Like, we gonna have us a good time, you know what I'm saying? And so there's something to be said about the way that food impacts the culture that we experience, but also the way those cultural experiences impact the ambitions that we have, right? To your point, the challenges that you went through, the things that you faced sort of shifted your perspective and how you want to make a difference in the world. Mm-hmm. And so I've been thinking a lot about, like, man, there's something about how we break bread together and who we connect with and the type of person that we become as we grow into ourselves. So with all that said, man, you have a favorite food growing up? I know you was out there in Columbus, you've been in Louisville. I know you had some good food, man. Come on now.
Man, woo, I did, man. I tell you, it's the entire soul food plate, man, from the collard greens to, the catfish to the yams and mac and cheese. I'm lactose intolerant, so I gotta take it easy on the mac and cheese, but you know, just those 4 or 5 ingredients is my favorite dish, my favorite meal. I mean, when I moved to Minnesota, I had to find those places that served those dishes, and it took me a little while to do that too. But anything that reminds me of the Southern style cooking is my favorite food, and I would have to say the collard greens probably trumps everything. They just made right. If they made right, then you could just eat a whole pot of those all day for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack. You know what I mean? They have to go with the collard greens, especially with the turkey legs. I'm sorry,
Okay.
those are pieces, but yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you pop up at the cookout. Who's making the collard greens, man? Are you making the collard greens? Somebody who's making them?
I ain't making the collard greens. Collard greens gonna have to be somebody's auntie or grandma, somebody that know how to make them. Typically they say, they arms got to be a certain way. If it ain't a certain way, then they can't be cooking. I mean, they don't know nothing about the experience. So I expect them to be some aunties and grandmas in the kitchen.
That's it. Listen, if your fingerprints ain't burned off, you can't put the pot off the stove with no gloves. Don't worry about it. We're gonna let somebody else handle that.
Exactly. We do it the traditional style. Yep.
I love it. Good stuff, bro. Good stuff. Like that's because it's a whole experience, man. It's not just like, oh, the food tastes good. It's like, nah, man, the people we together and we are breaking bread, we having conversation, right? I'm being inspired, I'm being loved on, and it's those moments that shape us into who we become. So it's bigger than food, man. And so I keep thinking that through, man. Every episode I have this be a little bit of piece of the conversation, but I gotta keep thinking that through, man, for real.
I love it. I love it, man. The fact that, like you said, you're bringing all these different ingredients together to create a pancake from scratch. You know what I'm saying? So the concept of what you're doing, and then the diversity of the voices and perspectives that you bring on this platform. I haven't missed an episode. If I have, I've watched the replay. So definitely cooking up some good stuff.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. I put some energy into it, put some thoughtfulness into it, and
Yes,
we're
sir.
gonna
I'm
see,
grateful.
man.
Grateful for the opportunity to be on the platform too. This is a very enlightening and inspiring conversation.
100%, man. I'm sure folks will walk away from this conversation feeling inspired and encouraged and trying to figure out how to stay as youthful as you have. I'm sure of
Yes,
it.
sir. If anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, either one of those platforms. I'm happy to connect.
Perfect, man. I appreciate you making time, bro. We're gonna talk soon, all right?
Thank you, Ernest. Appreciate it, brother. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.